Welcome back to another edition of Smart Driving Cars. Thank you for spending time with us. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hey, good afternoon, Fred.
Forgot to mention also the co-author of the still new book, The Real Case for Driverless Mobility. Alan, on top in the latest smart driving cars, some fast moving boats.
Absolutely. We have to handle all modes here. We can't just include autonomous vehicles.
And there's a bit of a personal connection to what happened at the Henley Royal Regatta.
Yep. So proud of my two interns who were in seat 3 and seat 4 of the winning heavyweight boat in I guess what is the premier race for heavies in eights with Cox. The Ladies Cup. I don't know why they call it the Ladies Cup. I guess it's a British thing, but whatever. But it was the men's heavies, and my two interns, one a former intern, the other one current intern, were in there, boom, and boom, and took it. I mean, how exciting was that? They're not only smart, they're great athletes. Whoa.
And I guess you're standing over them with a megaphone telling them to row, row, row with the code.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be writing some code as you're rowing. But the doom, but the doom. Why not?
Our congratulations to them.
Yeah, no, they work very hard. Those kids work hard, and all you need to do is shake their hands. I mean, it is one continuous callus. Whew, that is hard.
Meanwhile, the effort continues to bring mobility to people who need rides, and the list of communities that may be a part of HandyRides. That's what we're calling this, right?
Well, as of now, we're still, coming up with the name of a company is always the tough piece. It seems, you know, time I did this 45 years ago, we just, in the end, punted and said, we'll just call it ALK. We don't know anything else to call it. Who knows what the A and the L and the K stood for, but whatever. There are three initials.
They are your initials, but that's
whether or not that there's a correlation there or not, who knows? But we couldn't decide on a name. Right now, it's HandyRides. Why? Because I've been using that name in my course for 15 years, and I think the university does own handyrides.com and things like that, so it makes it easy. So we might as well make it real instead of just a classroom exercise.
And you have in the newsletter a demo to GreenVille Moves, which is the way you're envisioning this is different communities coming on board, more or less as franchisees, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, whether or not it's franchisees or whatever, somehow, I sort of I correlate it to Starbucks. I mean, there's a Starbucks corporate headquarters that I guess buys coffee, says use this urn, make sure you have Wi-Fi service, charge this amount plus or minus, train the people this way, have your hours of operation, sort of an operating plan, of course. There's some structure to that. And I think that with these, there's probably some advantages of having some structure. And so there's sort of a replication in numerous communities of entities that are responsible entities that can carry out the responsible activities of giving rides to people. The transit industry isn't really organized this way. It seems like everybody is independent. And maybe they should be independent. I don't know. But here it seems as if having a little bit more centralized organization may make the whole thing substantially more efficient. And we'll see. I guess it's one thing to think about doing many. It's another thing, we got to do one first. And if one works, then, you know, maybe in some extent replicated, because, you know, locales are somewhat similar. In detail, they're completely different. But again, the real advantage of doing this with automation is that the vehicles themselves can respond to handle the differences. And they may, in fact, have more in common than they have in differences, if it's, in fact, the autonomy of the vehicle that takes care of the differences. So anyway, conceptually, but that's sort of putting the cart before the horse. We really do need to do one. But it is interesting as I look around the country with our total addressable market analysis software, and maybe, you know, we can just do a quick one here for Greenville. Okay, Fred, so now I'm sharing my screen for our Move style design analysis and simulation system, for which we could, first of all, look at some configurations that we've already created. If we, let's see, if we have we have a bunch of Greenvilles. You know, sit there and, you know, in a sense, we can do a lot, but maybe we don't want to one that we've already done. We take a new one, and maybe the new one will go out there and call it Greenville. Maybe smart driving cars, SDC. And how many kiosks should we have in this one, Fred? Let's do a small one. We'll do 25. Yeah, no, we're not going to include northeast corridor links because into New York City, because that doesn't make sense with respect to this. And so we can now create such a thing. Whoops. Let's put 25 in there for 25 kiosks, and let's zoom in and find Greenville. Where in the heck's Greenville? Oh, there's Greenville. Greenville's right here. So we want one in Greenville. So let's see, maybe what we'll do for Greenville is we'll take an area in here to create it. And so to do that, we just click over here. And if we click it properly, and we can sort of, I guess we want to include downtown. We want people to be able to, but we're going to hit the eastern part of it over here. Make sure we include Middletown. And why not? Let that be the geo-fenced area for which we can submit that configuration for analysis. Here it is. Here's the system that laid out within that area. There it is. Those are the kiosks. Hey, the number one kiosk is in Nickeltown. And basically that's where people go to from Nickeltown that use this system. Again, these are the trips, a total of 1,742 person trips that could use this system on a typical day. That's within a 5-minute walk of one of these kiosks to a 5-minute walk on the other kiosk. That's what it looks like. And in fact, what one sees is that a lot of people are returning home from work that's letting out at around 5 o'clock and in Nickeltown, and whatever employers are there to then go back home. And otherwise, the distribution of the trips throughout the day looks like this. And the trip lengths for this particular kiosk is that 50% of the trips are less than 1.9 miles, but of course they are greater, as is specified here, than half a mile, because if the trip is only a half a mile or less in length, we assume people will be walking, so they're not really a potential customer here. But this is what it looks like for the number one kiosk. The number two kiosk is downtown here. In South Main Street, it has a potential total addressable market of 1,547 trips. Again, there are people leaving work to go home around the 5 o'clock time frame. Some people a little bit later, 6:30, and some people, I guess, from stores that are closing downtown are really the work trips going home at the later time periods. Again, the trip length, the cumulative trip length distribution is given here. And then if we want to look at the situation for all the trips, the total 14,017 total addressable market. That's what it looks like for all of the kiosks throughout the day. The 50% point for trips is 2 miles or less is the 50 percentile, and the 90 percentile or trips of 3.8 miles or less. And that's basically what exists in terms of the total addressable market. In orange are the work trips. In blue are the school trips, and you can see them clustered in here. Kids going to school, between 7:30 and 8 down in here, and kids coming home from school around 4 o'clock and whatever. And that's how we have the schools timed there. Some activity of other trips during the midday and into the evening. Very little activity, of course, at night. And, this is typically what the demand of individual person trips looks like in a community. Greenville, I guess, is just like all the other communities. But again, the number of trips that could be served by this system, such that it's less than a 5-minute walk to a kiosk, to go on to another kiosk, less than 5-minute walk, and then basically taken like an elevator. This is a horizontal elevator in the network. Consider all these kiosks. For example, this is kiosk rank 24. We could think of that as the 24th floor of this 25-story building. Okay, it is one of the smallest activity. Only 344 trips could originate from there within walking distance to walking distance, but that's what they are. And of course, this one down in here could be, there's the 25th floor. And this guy over here is the 12th floor. So 25th floor to the 12th floor, 12th floor to the 25th floor. Think of this as a horizontal elevator. Somebody walks to a kiosk, a vehicle is either there with the doors open, get in and will take you, or a vehicle will be arriving shortly, open its doors, come in, put your seatbelt on, will take you, and then we'll take you, drop you here, unlatch your seatbelt, get out, walk to your destination, and forget about it. It just gave you the ride. That's the way we envision this. So for this system, there are 6,500 work trips that we could serve, 862 school trips, and other trips, 6,600. That is what we call the total addressable market. Now, on any particular day, depending on how many vehicles out there, depending on the service expectation, we can, see how well we serve these folks. And this is what we do when we then create a simulation. So we can create a simulation and give it a simulation name. This is Greenville SDC. 25. The 25 is indicative of the number of kiosks, and maybe what we'll do is we'll say we're going to assume that we've been running this for a while, and maybe we're going to do, let's say, 20% serve 20% of the trips. In other words, we're going to serve about 3,000 person trips, 3,000 customers today. If we serve 3,000 customers, maybe let's put a fleet size of 50 out there. So we're going to do it a 50 for fleet size, a 20% for the market share. And because we expect some shared ride opportunities to take advantage of, let's maybe do it with 5-passenger vehicles and we're going to provide service such that in the worst case condition, the vehicle will wait at most 5 minutes to see if anybody else shows up that could share a ride, because we have no advanced reservation. This is responding to demand. This is a demand responsive system who's designed to give you service within 5 minutes. Maybe there's a backup and it has to bring an empty vehicle down from the 25th floor, or bring it from the 25th kiosk, and you may not be served within 5 minutes, but that's what we're going to try to do. And if we have you share rides, we're going to make sure that nobody who's sharing a ride has to incur more than a 20% security penalty. So if it's all along the same path, there's no security penalty, but if one trip has to deviate a little bit, we aren't going to put you together to share a ride unless it is high quality service. You're not being substantially impacted by the people that you're changing rides, and that's what this maximum security constraint is. And so we can create the simulation. And I think it's creating the simulation. Oh, there it is. So quick. Whew. Wow. We didn't even break there. So here's our 25 kiosks located here. Down in here is, this is kiosk number 25. Okay, and that's where we located it here. Is it actually physically there? I mean, a lot of design has to go in to actually choose the right place to do this, but at least as an initial concept, look, we've been working on this problem for what, 12 minutes now, but at least we have some initial locations for these kiosks. Here's we're right here. This one's right next to a Publix. Maybe what we should do is move this thing right into the Publix, or right here in front of the Publix between McAllister Square and so on, so that people can shop at either place and have good access. This is all part of the detailed design that has to go in. But right now we have kiosk rank 4, and at midnight, we are sitting here at midnight. There's nobody standing there waiting for a vehicle to take it anywhere. And we haven't done an initial distribution of vehicles. We can, and so on, and once we refine this, but right now we're just going to get them out of the depot and bring them here once somebody requests a ride. So this is how we start our simulation. We can animate the simulation, and we'll put an animation speed. We'll speed it up a little bit. And we can set her running. And so here she goes. And now it's 12:02, 12:04, 12:00 whatever. And now we have used 4 vehicles so far. It's 12:15. We have 4 riders moving. Where are those people moving? Can we see them moving anywhere? There goes one of them. Let's see if we can stop and identify. Hey, this guy. Who is this guy? This is vehicle number 6. Carrying 1 passenger, and the passenger number, if you can read it there, it's 45. That's a pointer to an actual individual and a description of an individual in terms of his age, economic background, in terms of the characteristic of that vehicle. And where's that person going? They're going to kiosk number 12, and it's expected that the trip will take 12.8 minutes. And it's really actually one of the longer trips in this system. It's 4.3 miles long. Okay, so that's the characteristic of that. And we can then watch the simulation and get it going. And we'll pipe down the speed a little bit so we can watch that guy. And look, we can watch him moving along. And bypass that kiosk. Bypass that kiosk. Ooh, there's road construction right here, so we've had to divert around the road construction. Ooh, must be that one. Sure enough, that's where they was going. Person got out. Let's see what happens at this kiosk. Guess what? There's a vehicle waiting there now. The vehicle that dropped off that person is not sitting there. It hasn't been empty repositioned. It's just sitting there waiting in case somebody shows up and, has its door open, just like, somebody you take the elevator back down to the ground floor, you get out, the elevator sits there and waits in case somebody wants to go up. Same thing is happening here with this. This vehicle is here. But we can't have we can't have this go on all day, so we'll speed up the animation, and in fact, we'll jump in time and we'll say, hey, let's put ourselves at 7 a.m. And so here we are at 7 a.m. At 7:57:34 in the morning. We have an empty vehicle being repositioned here. This is vehicle 16 that's going to kiosk 19 to pick up a passenger. It's going to be running empty for 3.6 minutes, and it's being repositioned a total of 1.2 miles. There's a vehicle over here, this vehicle 14. It's carrying two passengers. Both of them are going to kiosk 15. Both of them had trip lengths of 2.7 miles. Two people, independent customers riding together because they happen to show up at about the same time, just as like two people showing up in an elevator, getting into an elevator and going up to the 15th floor together. That's what is happening here. This person is an individual person that's going there, and an empty vehicle being repositioned here. And so that's the view of our system as it looks like at 7:57:34. There are a total of 8 riders moving. 3 people are waiting for vehicles, and this is still a slow period. It hasn't picked up yet. We can let her rip through 8 o'clock.
And Alan, the simulations are based on census data and knowing where people live.
Well, that's how. So the process that this, I call it a third world because somebody else already designed a second world, so I call it a third world. And when I created the third world here, I created the 330 million individuals, avatars, I call them. That represents the 330 million people living in the last census, for which each of the individuals has a home and work if they work or go to school and so on, and each has been given a basically a diary of trips for the day, when they depart home, where they go, A to B, a time T, a sequence of trips nationwide. If we look at this thing nationwide, which we can look at this nationwide. Why not? In the nation, there are 1.1 billion trips, but most of the trips, for example, in Blacksburg and Roanoke, aren't really of importance to Greenville. Greenville cares about what's happening in Greenville. So in Greenville, as we said, we just found that subset of trips that can walk to a kiosk and walk from a kiosk that could be served as the people running here. That's all we do. And then we see, okay, how are we going to serve them? And we do that throughout the day. We run the simulation so we can look at it at 6:53. This is what it looks like. We can set it in motion if you want to see it in motion. You can zoom in. You can do of course, you can do everything. You can then, whatever. It's just data at this point. So we can pause it and we can see, hey, right here on kiosk 21, there's one passenger waiting. Okay. And at this kiosk, there's also a passenger waiting. And in this vehicle, there are 2 passengers, one going to kiosk 10, one going to kiosk 2. I mean, if you're going to be able to animate it, you got to be able to animate it. Look at this guy. There are 5 people in that one in vehicle 10. Why? Because wherever they started out, 2 people could be taken to kiosk 1, dropped off, then maybe on to kiosk 24, and then on to kiosk 3. It's like going up the elevator, went up to, the first floor, then I guess the 3rd floor, and then the 24th floor. Same deal that exists, which other one you want to look at. That there are 2 there, there's 1 there. That's just what's going on at existing right now, 7 vehicles are moving empty, 39 are moving with people, 4 are waiting to depart. And we've used, up to this point in time today, every one of our 50 vehicles at some point or another. And a total at this instant of time, there are 60 people that are riding, and there are 31 that are still waiting to depart at locations. And we've served so far at 7:01:12, we've served 1,834 customers. And so this is just running a business. And so we can take a look at the business at 9:58. We've served almost 2,500 people. And if we look at the end of the day results, which are presented up here, okay, we've used all the vehicles. On average, each vehicle has served 52.44 person trips. Not very. The average vehicle occupancy is 1.16. Now, people would say, "My goodness, that's not a very high average vehicle occupancy." We are only counting the decision maker in a trip. So if Elizabeth and I are traveling together, going to dinner, that counts as 1 person trip because she's decided where we go and I'm just following along. But if you independently make a decision and me independently make a decision, and we find ourselves that we can share this vehicle to go, then that counts as 2. If the vehicle is going to pick up my daughter at school and bring her home when I go to pick her up, vehicle occupancy right now is 0. So using this as a measure of average vehicle occupancy, cars probably today in Greenville, I bet Greenville doesn't have an average vehicle occupancy of greater than 1 for the whole day in this whole region. People would say, "Oh my goodness, that can't be the case. Federal Highways says the average vehicle occupancy is 1.7, but it's not. Because on how many of those trips was the person that they counted as 1 person in there, a person that was repositioning a vehicle to go pick up somebody to give them a ride? And how many times did they count as 2 people in the vehicle, people that would have been traveling together anyway? And so it only should count as 1. And so if you really look at what I'm calling average vehicle occupancy here, this is not the number that FHWA puts out. I don't know. That's average number of bodies in vehicle. What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything in terms of the value of the mobility that's offered. This is value of mobility offered. The median wait for service throughout the day is only 5.2 minutes. Uber doesn't do that well. Oh my goodness. They'll tell you they're 3 minutes away. Never mind. Okay. And, the 90th percentile, there were some times in which there was a wait. But, 90% of the people were served under 5. And if you look at that distribution, it does have a long tail. Okay. But that's what happens under really dynamic demand. And had to see what the dynamic demand response is for Uber. Never mind, I'm sure they have it, but I can't deal with that. And then if we want to look at, well, how much would such a system cost? Well, we can, we have a fleet size of 50. That's the number of miles that they would have to consume. How much are we going to pay for a vehicle? What is the salvage value? What are the interest rates we have to borrow? What kind of lifetime do we have to, we put this around? What kind of operations and management? What's the marketing and advertising cost to be able to get a customer? What churn do you have in your customer set? Because, people leaving you have to get new ones. Administrative costs. This isn't a very big system, doesn't have some real good opportunities for scale, but has some. And we say, well, if we're going to charge, less than a latte, $5 for each one of these things, which is less than a latte, oh my goodness, we're going to make, running this system for a year, we're going to make in profit $1.3 million. at a fare of $5 without any subsidy, without going with your hand out, hey, give me money so I can give good rides. Okay, just doing it out of the fare box. And you say, well, maybe even $5. What's a break-even fare? Let's put 4 in there. 4, we still make a little bit of money at 4, so it's probably break-even fare, something like $3.75 probably for this. For this size, we're still making money. Maybe it's $3.70. Put $3.70 in there. I mean, we could run a little algorithm to actually compute it. Ooh, might be $3.50. What's $3.50? Ooh, we're just losing $3.53. Let's look at what we make a little hour down. That's $3.52. There, net revenue 0. So if you want to run a nonprofit, charge $3.52 a ride. Oh my goodness! If you're bringing people to work on this, you know, $3.52 a ride each way it probably costs you more to create a parking spot for the person to park their car than it would cost you to pick up the fare for this person to come to work there. This is cost of goods sold. Okay, this isn't some, you know, whatever government subsidy thing. That's what it looks like, just, you know, kind of taking one out of the box. We don't need to just do this in Greenville. We can do it in Huntsville. We can do it in Chattanooga. We can do it in Knoxville. We can do it in Lexington. We can do it in Louisville. We can do it in Bloomington. We can do it in Evansville. We in a lot of places we can do this. Why isn't anybody doing this? I don't know.
So as you were saying, Alan, the real significance here to a great extent is that you can plug this in to any community in the country and see what a system would look like and have a business model as well.
And begin to have a business model on some fundamentals now, and the details make a lot of difference. The people, it has to be accepted, it has to work, it has to be able to deliver it. There are a lot of details, but at least conceptually, in terms of what it can bring to a community, I think it's, you know, we spend 15 minutes here to get some idea. I don't know. Seems like, I don't know. Seems like some folks might be interested in what the heck's going on in my community. And this is what we can do with this sort of third life representation of what exists. It's, you know, every day is different. And tomorrow is going to be different than today. So yes, we can try to forecast perfectly what tomorrow is going to be. I know I can't do that, so I'm not even going to bother trying. But we can get close. We can sort of understand fundamentally what's going on, where people are coming from, going to probably during the day. And you can, you know, put out there and do some tests to see if it's real or not real.
Any community in the country, officials or an entity could say, this looks interesting, and make use of this software.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it's available, you know. It's not free. I'm just an academic from a, you know, little backwater entity here in Jersey in the Jersey swamps. But boy, do I have rowers.
That you do.
That I do.
Moving along in the newsletter, Alan, the latest newsletter, the European Union is mandating speed limiters on all new cars to enhance road safety.
Wow. Well, of course, speed kills. And the craziness that's out there now of people just going like, I went running this morning. Somebody went down Mercer Street. They must have been doing 50 miles an hour in a 25 zone. It was, you know, 6:30 in the morning. Nobody was, but come on. I mean, you know, the speed on roads today is, I mean, I don't know. Let's blame it on COVID. I don't know who we can blame it on, but people are just like nuts out there.
And so kudos to the EU for taking.
Kudos to the EU, the UK, the whomever. I mean, this has been
The
available.
UK,
So,
the UK is not included in
oh,
the
UK. Well, yeah, that's right. UK is not in the EU. I mean, who knows what the politics? I don't want to get involved in politics. I've tried. I have too much involvement in other stuff. I don't want. I can't be involved in that stuff, Fred.
and sort of related to this, a software update that has apparently gone out to Tesla employees so far gives parents of young drivers the ability to set curfews, speed limits, prevent them from being able to turn off collision warnings or automatic braking. And the system uses a parental pin. So, unless the kids are
Look,
any
I
good at
think
figuring that out.
that is absolutely fantastic, and in fact, the kids should apply it to the parents.
And
Not let the parents speed. Not let the parents do all those things. So it should go both ways.
and
Wouldn't
the
that be
idea
interesting? Oh my goodness!
would,
Wow.
it sure would. But what it does really is make a case for a Model 3 or Model Y to be a family car.
Well, of course it makes it a family car, but this is we've always indicated from the very beginning of us doing smart driving cars. We also always had this. The safe driving car was, we didn't do level 1, 2, 3, 18, 42 SAE 4.32 or and all that. We said we had a safe driving car. The safe driving car is basically does the monitoring and does the driving safely. It lets you be in control as long as you're within the safety envelope. You start going out of that, it doesn't let you do that. It's okay to cross a double line as long as there's nobody coming in the coming direction. So the system should be smart enough to know that, okay, you want to drift over cross double line, you can do it as long as there's not somebody coming the other way. If there is, the system should be able to sense that, and it should say, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't. Because you're not only risking your life, you're risking my life. How dare you? Cut it out. And if you want to zoom crazily, not in my neighborhood. Sorry, go do it on, the Autobahn.
Well, we see enough of that outside of the Autobahn on Route 295.
290, it's like crazy out there.
People just decide to race each other, and it gets very
It's
dangerous.
just like, come on.
Right.
I don't know. I guess nobody has any freedom, and they think they have freedom in their car. I don't know. Whatever. I applaud Tesla for doing this. I applaud them for doing it to keep their kids safe. I think their kids should flip the coin and say, I want to keep my parents safe. You're not allowed to do it either. I mean, come on.
Why not? If it keeps the family safe, right?
I would think so.
The
And
drive
plus, what
was
about me and what about you?
absolutely. If there was a switch right now that said, "Do you want us to prevent any accident?" Yeah, of course I do.
Well, look, I mean, we talked about this last week. The auto industry is now fighting, NHTSA on automated emergency braking. What are they selling out there? Where's their responsibility? They claimed in 2000, 14, 13, 17, whatever, they'd have this thing done by 22. Is it 22 yet, Fred?
Well, it is done in a Toyota.
It is done,
according to NHTSA.
and they have the gall to go out there and complain about it. Why? Oh, you're selling something to somebody who wants absolute. Driving is supposed to be a privilege, not a right. You don't have a right to go out and kill me. Sorry. Cut it out.
I used to teach driving way back when, and it's people. The first thing teach a 17-year-old this isn't a toy. Yeah.
But some people have forgotten about that out there. I mean, it's like nuts.
Moving along in the newsletter, Alan, The Drive had a report headline, Tesla full self-driving is a bad thing for getting the public to buy in for autonomous driving tech. And this comes from a rival engineer quoting the head of Mercedes' autonomous driving program.
I don't want to comment. Come on. I mean, you know, what do you want to do? Go out there and you know, have your driver go kill people? Well, I don't know. And the level 3 is what Mercedes is pushing, where you're back and forth between being a backseat driver and a front seat. What's going on here? Either you're riding or you're driving. If you're riding, the vehicle does it. Sit there and enjoy the ride. I don't know. I mean, how many? I don't. When I'm on an airplane, United, flying wherever, I don't go knock on the door of the cockpit. Hey, yo, you're doing whatever. Trying to intervene, and I'm getting a ride. If I'm driving, I have to be driving. I can't have somebody going in there, hey, yo, whatever. The whole level 3 it was bad when it was proposed. It's still bad today. And that's what Mercedes is essentially pushing.
We should point out that FSD in a Tesla, you are still driving.
Period. You are still driving.
Period.
Period. You're the one that's responsible. Period. Now, if you didn't bother listening, didn't believe him, and say, "Oh my goodness, he used this word that said, I can just, well, I don't know, no comment."
In The Verge, Andrew Hawkins has a piece on a prototype to turn a car's windshield into a giant augmented reality display. And this comes from a company called Distance Technologies. And I could see your eyes rolling when I read the story.
I mean, how many bad ideas have to come out in a week? What? When I'm driving, I'm supposed to watch a windshield? What? What? I mean, come on. I mean, please, I don't want the best idea. I just want good ideas. Heads-up displays, I've always felt, were a bad idea. It might be appropriate in a fighter jet when you're going at Mach 80.7, where you can't even see where you're going. And therefore, you have to look at what the screen is telling you to do whatever you should be doing. Although I'd have to ask the question, why are you being asked to do anything? If the screen is telling you what to do, why doesn't it just do it? Why are you in the loop? Get back in the back and take a ride. And to put stuff on the screen, it's telling you what to do. I mean, that is a bad idea. Sorry. Never mind. Whatever.
Well, there are plenty of people who think that the big screens that are so prevalent in all kinds of cars being sold today, the big screens that are generally in the center for the most part of the vehicle. Some people think those are a bad idea, but certainly not, I don't think, as distracting as a heads-up.
I think they're a bad idea. I think they're a bad idea. I mean, in all the work that I did in the design of Copilot and turn-by-turn navigation, at best, you've got to get in the glance. You've got to get it in something less than a second, get the information. You start staring at it, Guess what one's eyes do when they start staring at something? They lose peripheral vision. Come on. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I didn't take enough psychology courses or neuropsychology courses or whatever, although I co-taught courses with some very good people. That idea.
Our friend Ken Pyle has a nice piece in
Yeah.
Viodi that you're mentioning in the newsletter. It's headlined Common Sense About Smart Driving. And this is focused on the Smart Driving Car Summit held at the end of May there in Princeton.
Well, of course I like that because that was a good idea. What can I tell you? Hey, I didn't say I was
Ken does a good
unbiased.
job
I didn't say
putting it all together.
Ken, known Ken for years. We've known Ken for years. Ken's does a great job.
And we'll give
True
a shout out to the
True
shout out to the annual TRB symposium coming up in
Yeah, it's coming up. Right, and the Florida AV conference is coming up in early September. Looks like I'm probably going to Boca Chica because I'm going to Starship 5. So probably won't make it out to the AV conference, but because it looks like it's going to be at the end of the month, 4 weeks or something, a little less, maybe. I don't know. Conflict. Plus, I have a lot of work to do if I hope to accomplish anything in my life, and I better get on with it because what I'm trying to do, I've been trying to do for 50 years or more than 50 years. So it's about time that I do it, right, Fred?
Absolutely.
Been slacking for 50.
Here we go.
Here we go. We're going to try. Boy, I've gotten wonderful response from folks, and we got a team. We just got out of the Joliet Correctional Institute, and we're going to put the team back together, put the band back together, right? Like the Blues Brothers. Whew. We're putting a band back together.
Sounds great. Well, you can find more info at smartdrivingcar.com. Also on Spotify, TuneIn, wherever you turn to for podcasts, Google, Amazon, SoundCloud. You can find my tech reports at textination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thanks for listening or watching. Please continue to stay safe.
Remember, we're on a mission from God here. We're putting the band back together. Anyway, love the movie. Hope you do too.